Okay, in this video I'm going to show you 12 new changes they made in the new Resolve 16 beta. These are all changes they added to the new version of Resolve. The old version was Resolve 15. So this is the new Resolve 16. This is the first beta. So I'm going to go over 12 different changes. Some are smaller than others, some are pretty big. I'm going to start off with probably the biggest change is that they added a new tab on the bottom called Cut. Now in the What's New video on Blackmagic Design's site, they kind of went over this in great detail, so I'm not going to go quite that much in detail. I'm just kind of going to introduce it and show its basic functions. And then the other 11 will be more, they didn't really cover in depth in the Blackmagic's video, so in this video I'll go over some different changes that they didn't really cover. So in Cut here, it's supposed to just simplify if you want to just really quickly chop up clips and add them to the timeline and just quickly edit what you have. That's what this is designed for, and edit allows you to get a little more precise and do a little more kind of like fancy editing. But here in the Cut, you basically can have your media bin over here, then you have your viewer, then you have basically kind of two timelines. This is your entire timeline, and that way if you have multiple clips, you can see the entire timeline and kind of zoomed out, and you can scrub through and go through, and then you'll see the second timeline is more zoomed in. That allows you to get a little more precise. And to move this bottom one here, as soon as you come up to the timeline ribbon here, then you can left click, and if you move left, the timeline moves to the left, and it basically keeps the playhead stationary, and then you move the clip along. And then in the viewer, if you double click, so here I'll double click on this clip here in the bin. Now that adds that here. So if you want to add a clip of this in, it makes it very easy. So let's say right here, if I want to make a cut in this and then add in a little clip from here, if I right click here, I click split, and that makes a split between, so I have two different clips now. And I don't even have to have the playhead right on the edit point here on the split. So if I come back up here and I choose a certain section, so say I want to just choose a section here, so hit I for in point, and then move it over, kill a clip, hit O for out. Then right now over here, these are some ways to add your clips into your timeline and some faster ways, which is kind of what the Cut tab is about. So right here, the first one here is Smart Insert, and as soon as I hit that, it'll add that clip right at that edit mark, right at that split, and kind of automatically do it for you. Now you can also adjust it here. That's just a simple way. And then if you look up here, you can see that in this timeline, you can see where the cuts are. And you can also adjust them here. So if I want to extend that, I can extend that if I want. You can also drag and drop clips up to this timeline, so you could go in between. So if you wanted to clip from the beginning here, instead of scrolling through this one and just endlessly scrolling, you could go right to the end here and paste a clip. That will also make it easy if you want to do some common transitions. You have common transition right here. You have a cut, a dissolve, and a smooth cut. So if I want to add a dissolve transition right here, I just hit here, hit dissolve, and it automatically adds it. So if I go and scrub through here, you see the dissolve, and I can adjust its size. And if I want to change it to, say if I wanted to change it to a smooth cut instead, or into a just a cut, click cut. Now we just have a cut. Or I can hit smooth cut, and I'll add that. Which isn't necessarily good for this example, but that's something you could change. And if you want to delete it, just select it, hit delete, and now that transition is gone. So there's a lot more functions available, and again, on Blackmagic Design's YouTube channel and on their web page, they have a more extensive overview of what you could do in the Cut tab. I just want to show you real quickly that they've added, probably the biggest feature they added is a whole new tab, Allows you to quickly edit and get multiple clips together and add them quickly to a timeline. And then if you have the timeline all set up, you come up here to the upper right corner and there's your quick export, which I'll go over later in this video. And you can export right from here, and you don't have to deliver page. So that is the first major change they made with the Resolve 16 beta. Another change made in the Resolve 16 beta is under clip properties. If you right click on a track on a clip, go to clip attributes. There's this new area here where you can do the image flip from within the clip attributes, and you can also change the image orientation. So I come here and I can hit 180 degrees and click OK, and that flips it 180 degrees. Come back into it, take it back to 0, and that flips it back to 0. Now you can also do the flip here within the inspector. But again, they've added that to clip attributes. And they've come to clip attributes over here. You have the same thing before you even add it to your timeline. You can come through here, you can image flip, change the image orientation. You always could choose an input sizing preset. Well, that's just a nice addition they did in the clip attributes in the Resolve 16 beta. One of the most requested features in Resolve 15 is now available in the Resolve 16 beta, and that is the ability to add separate timelines, additional timelines to your project, and have them have different resolutions and different frame rates. So right now, if I'm on this one timeline, and if I go to File and Project Settings, I can't change the timeline frame rate. But if I add a new timeline, now it gives me the ability to use custom settings. So you left click on that, and here you can change all these different settings. But if you want to change the frame rate, you come to Format, and here you can change the timeline frame rate. So let's say I change 24, click Create. So I have a new timeline. And if I want to switch to timeline 1, I can right click and copy that clip, and I can switch back to timeline 2, and now I can paste that in, and now this is now a 24 frame per second timeline. And I can step through it here, 21, 22, 23, and then back to 0, and I can switch back to timeline 1. And step through this, and it goes all the way up to 30. So that's a much asked about feature. It allows you to have different frame rates for your project and try out different frame rates, or you might have to deliver in different frame rates. So this way you could edit on your timeline in different timelines with different frame rates, which is a really great addition. And hopefully they'll just improve it as the betas and as they refine it. But that's how you can have multiple timelines with different frame rates in the same project in Resolve 16 beta. Another change in Resolve 16 is they've added some Resolve effects that wasn't in Resolve 15. Now some of them are for the studio version only, so I'm going to show the ones that are available in the free version. So one of the first ones that they've added is an invert color. So it kind of does what it says. If you put that onto your clip, it inverts all the colors. You come over to the inspector and go to OpenFX and change which parameters, which color channels you want it to change, and change the blend mode. And if you're not happy with it, you can just delete it. And the next one they added was drop shadow. So that basically uses, if you have two different tracks, you have one on top of the other, and so you have one smaller, so it's like a picture-in-picture, you could add a drop shadow to it, give it a little extra style. So I'll add another track. And I'll come over to the transform and I'll zoom in on it. And I'll move it down to the bottom right corner. So you're doing like picture-in-picture, if you're doing like a talking head in the small window and then you're showing something on your screen, you might want to have a small window on the side here. So if you add the drop shadow to that track, it adds a nice drop shadow in there. You come to OpenFX, you can increase the strength of that shadow, its angle to where it's coming dropping onto, the distance it is, and also how much the blur is. It kind of fades it in and out. And you can also change the color. That's the drop shadow. And then again, you could delete that from the inspector. And then the last one here is vignette, which again does what it sounds like. I can actually get rid of this top one here, so I'll get rid of that and just go with this one and add it to this track. That's it, vignette. And again, by default, it's a pretty strong one, which might be if you're doing that, going for that kind of style. But if not, if you increase the size, that increases the size of the oval in the middle. So you can kind of push it out to the ends, and you can also change the anamorphism, kind of spread it out a little bit more, and then also you can increase the softness so it's more of a subtle effect. Or you could go really harsh and really kind of move in if that's what you're going for, or animate that for an effect. But that is the 3 Resolve effects they added in Resolve 16 beta. That's available in the free version. Again, they have added some other ones that are available, like pencil sketch, which I'll show here. If you add that in, it's going to say you don't have the studio version, and you could at least test it out and see what it's going to look like, but then it puts this watermark on. So I'll get rid of both of these. So that's the new Resolve FX they've added in the free version of the Resolve 16 beta. A nice addition to the Resolve 16 beta in the Edit tab is the ability to modify your keyframes in the curves editor for your Resolve FX and OpenFX. So I'll demonstrate it here by adding a box blur to this clip. So I have the box blur here. Now I have the ability to drop down the curves editor, and then I can add a transform here for the OpenFX. So I can add a keyframe there, move forward a little bit here, change the blur. Then if I click on the drop down here, I now have box blur settings for the OpenFX, and I can click on horizontal strength, and now you see the keyframes here. And I can modify them here in the curves editor. To add keyframes, I can manipulate them. And that is a welcome addition to Resolve 16 beta. Now it's not perfect, and they can definitely do some more work with it. But it is nice that they add it. I'm sure it'll just get better after they release new betas and get the final version going. So that is the curves editor for OpenFX in the edit page of Resolve 16 beta. One of the biggest changes with Resolve 16 beta that they just released was the addition of an adjustment clip, which works like an adjustment layer in Adobe After Effects, in that if you place it above several tracks, it'll affect all the tracks underneath. So here I have 2 different video tracks, a video 1 and a video 2. And if I come over to my effects library and come to effects, you'll see adjustment clip and fusion composition. Fusion composition used to be under generators, but now they've moved that. Now it can be found under effects. And if you want to add an adjustment clip, just left click and drag it over to your track. I made a 3rd track here above the other 2 tracks. Now if we just play through now,
I'd like to mention is that
since we haven't changed anything with it, it won't affect anything. But so I will take one of this top track here, and change it zoom just so we could see it. And we can see how the adjustment clip will affect both tracks. So I'll play it through again before making adjustments. So everything's playing normally. But now I can come up to the adjustment clip, and if I zoom in or out, it'll affect both clips underneath it. And basically anything I do under the inspector will affect all the clips underneath the adjustment clip. So I can reset to 0, but I can change the rotation angle. Now if I come to the normal, where the adjustment clip isn't, it's not affected, and then it's affected, and then if you go after it, it's not affected. It's just within that adjustment clip. Now I can, of course, adjust that, make it longer, so it'll affect it from the beginning. And I can zero that out again. And you can do the cropping, stabilization, which is something new they added. and it basically anything you do under the color tab as well. So we'll come into the color tab, and I'll come to the adjustment clip, and I'll just do some big changes here. I'll change the color so you can see that here. If I come back to the edit and play it through,
I'd like to mention
where the adjustment clip is, you'll see it, but as soon as you get past it
and you come up to it,
and that effect is gone, and you can see it's affecting both clips that are underneath it. So any changes you make in the color tab for the adjustment clip will affect all the clips underneath it, all the tracks. And also if you add anything in Fusion, to the Fusion tab, it's kind of like a Fusion composition, in that you could add things in here. So I got a text node, 16, could animate a size. I'll go to the beginning, start out small, come up, increase the size of the text. Now if I come back into edit and play this through,
one thing I'd like to mention is that
it'll be there, but if I come to the end, once I get past it, now all that is gone. That's all contained within the adjustment clip. So that's how you can use the adjustment clip in the new beta of Resolve 16. Okay, one of the changes I've seen in Resolve 16 beta, which seems to be related to the adjustment clip and how it affects, if you put it on top of your other clips, it affects all the clips underneath. And also the Fusion composition is very similar to the adjustment clip. I will show you kind of a carryover, which I actually think is sort of a bug, and I'll demonstrate that now. So I have two clips here. I have one clip above the other, so I'm going to have the top clip, and I'm going to add some node in Fusion here. So I'm just going to add in a text plus node here, merge that, add text in, and do a simple animation. So I'll start at the beginning, take the size down to 0, keyframe that, have come forward a certain number of frames, have the size of the text grow, very simple animation. Then I come back, I could play it through here real quick. And here it is in the Fusion tab playing through. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'll come back to the Edit tab. Now if I play it through here,
thing I'd like to mention
you'll
is
see
that
it there.
Your car
But here's where the bug comes in, is if I come to this top clip, if I go to transform and I shrink it down, say if I wanted to have it be in the bottom corner, I could take it, move it down. Now you'd expect the behavior to that Fusion clip, Fusion text would stay with this clip. But now if I play it through,
thing I'd like to mention
it's just shown over top of everything, and it doesn't go with the clip that you created it with. Now if I move this forward, now it's gone, but it'll come back again, but it doesn't stay with the clip you just made, this top track here. So if I increase the zoom on that and move it around, the Fusion clip I made, or the addition in Fusion here, doesn't stay with the topmost track, which is kind of how it worked in Resolve 15, is whatever track you clicked on and your playhead was over, and when you went into Fusion, that's where it was would stay within the confines of that clip. But now it just goes over top of all your different tracks, which is again kind of how the adjustment clip works, which is like, I guess you could work around this and maybe people won't really mind it too much, but I think it's just kind of, it's a different behavior than it was in Resolve 15, and again I'm not quite sure if it's a bug or not, but that is a change in the Resolve 16 beta. Another nice feature they added in Resolve 16 beta is the ability to export from the timeline without having to go to the deliver page. You can do that from the edit page, the cut page, the media page, or color. You can't do it from Fusion. But if you have your clip looking the way you want, or you want to do a test render, you just make sure you have it down here in your timeline. come up to File, and you have the Quick Export option. And this gives you your settings, and you can choose just H.264 or YouTube or Vimeo. You can actually directly upload to YouTube or Vimeo. But here's your different settings, and if that's fine, that's the way you want it, hit Export, and then ask for a file folder to choose and a file name. So I'll do it right here, and let's call this Test. Click Save, and now it's rendering it out. And it's all done. So now I can go to that folder, and here is that test video, and there it is rendered out. So again, just for test renders, just quick and easy rendering, that way you don't have to go to the deliver page to render your video. And that's how you do a quick render in the new beta of Resolve 16. In the new Resolve 16 beta, there's another change in the Fusion tab, so that if you have your clips shown here enabled, if you right click and you go to your composition, instead of having just load and delete, you also have rename, so you can rename the composition. So now that has a new one. You create a new composition like before, and you can reset it. But that is a new addition to the Resolve 16 beta in the Fusion tab, the ability to rename your compositions associated with a clip. Okay, another new feature in Resolve 16 under the Fairlight tab is Elastic Audio, which is mostly used or should be used for ADR, for dialogue replacement, and allows you to get the waveforms of what you recorded to sync up with what you originally had, and to kind of sync up with, say, lips of mouth movement in a dialogue clip in your video. So you basically right click on the track that you want to change the positioning of the audio. You come up and you click on, left click on Elastic Wave, and then right before the area that you want to change, you hold down the Control key and left click, and that sets a point. And then you could go to the end if you need to trim the end a little bit. Do the same thing. Come there, hold down Control and click, and then you can line them up. You can stretch it out. So if you left click and hold and stretch this, you can see the audio comes over, and you can line up so it matches up. If you need to, you can move the entire clip a little bit to get it to line up. And then you can bring the back part here up a little bit so it kind of ends in line there. And here I'll play the original first.
Car doors are unlocked. Car doors are unlocked.
And then I'll play through the new. I'll mute that. Car doors are unlocked so that it lines up. So that is a nice feature. You can go a lot more in depth with this, but that's the Elastic Audio in Resolve 16's Fairlight tab. In the Resolve 16 beta color page, when you come to the curves window, you either go into your custom or HSL curves. There's a histogram available, and you could change if you want that to be off. You come down here, hit the three dots, histogram off, so you won't see it. It'll be like in Resolve 15. You can enable it for the input, so you can see what's coming in, and that won't be affected by any of your adjustments. So if I come here and adjust, you won't see any difference in the histogram as you're going along. But if you come here and hit the three dots menu, come to histograms, and go output, then you can actually see the effect of your curve on the histogram, which is a nice feature to kind of see what's going on along with the scopes. So that is a new feature in the color page of Resolve 16 beta. One of the big additions to Resolve 16 beta is the ability to keyframe your Resolve FX or OpenFX effects you could add to the clips. So here I'll add a serial node, and I'll add a simple box blur to it. And now if I want to keyframe its horizontal strength and vertical strength. I get keyframe, hit the keyframes there, move forward a little bit, and then increase the blur. And now if you look here under corrector 2, if I scroll down, you'll see box blur, and I could change the keyframes here. I can move them around and do all the things I could do with all the other keyframes. That's something that was missing in Resolve 15, was the ability to keyframe from the color page any of your OpenFX effects here. So that's a nice addition, and that's a pretty major update and much welcomed update. So that's how you can now keyframe in the color page of the new Resolve 16 beta. So that was 12 big changes in the newest version of Resolve 16, the beta they just released. And hopefully you found this video useful, and I do thank you for watching.